Hey, welcome back to the Confidad podcast. Dan Tinkwist here, your host. So glad to have you join us again today. And as we begin every single podcast, reminding ourselves what is true about true fatherhood, our mindset training. Here we go. I am the only one who can fulfill the father role I have, so I choose to do it well. I get to show up well for my kids. Imperfection is reality. Ownership is a choice. Today is brand new, and so is tomorrow. I am wholly loved, so I will love wholly. Today in our equipping section, I want to give you kind of a general overview of my method called the time well spent method. You might say, I love you to your kid all the time, but in what ways are you showing it? And some of us have really good answers to that. We know exactly what that looks like, giving them rides to and from school or practices or lessons. We have evidence. But what matters more is how our kids receive that love. I said earlier in an episode that there's this deep, innate human desire to be known, to belong, to be seen for who they are and still loved, to be heard, like knowing that their voice, their contribution to the culture, their contribution to their family matters. And when that's true, like when they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel known, there's this connection from the heart of feeling to the head of knowing, right? I know that I'm loved because I hear all the time, I love you, I love you, I love you. But as soon as they start to feel seen and feel heard and feel known, that connection from head to heart begins to happen, and it begins to form a very strong bond that is like, okay, so this is my people, right? We said it before. I want my kids to be better behaved around other people than they are at home. And why is that? Because home is safe, right? If that's the case for you, it means that home is safe. It's the place where they can land with all of their stuff and feel safe to do so, with their highs and their lows and everything in between. I heard Dave Barnes and John McLaughlin host a podcast called Dadville. And yesterday they talked about that because Dave had this post go viral about like, when my kids are home, it's crazy because the difference that I see when they're home versus when they're out, people are like, hey, your kids are so well behaved and they're amazing. And oh my gosh, they're so respectful. And he's like, yeah, but I don't see that at home. And this like light bulb went off, a revelation for him to say, wait a second. Home is the training ground. And when you're training and when you're practicing, home gets a little messy. Training gets messy. We make mistakes. We screw up. We don't always emotionally regulate. And there's all those things that like home kind of becomes that place of expanding and contracting. And then when they're out in the world where what they've been practicing for, it's a little more rigid. It's a little more like, okay, here I am. So in that mix of behavioral evidence, we want to know, like, do you feel safe? Do you feel known? Do you feel heard? Do you feel seen in our home? So the idea of see, hear, know comes from the practice of choosing to take 5-minute windows 3 times a day to spend with each of your kids individually. One of those windows seeing them, one of those windows hearing them, and one of those windows knowing them. Seems a little bit intangible. I get it. When we dive in to see, hear, and know, you'll understand a little bit more. But just to stay 30,000 foot here for a minute, this is an evidence, research-backed approach to building strong connection and relationship with your kids. There's this, he's passed away now, but he was an Estonian-American doctor who talked about the 9 most important minutes of a kid's day. It's the first 3 minutes when they get up, the next 3 minutes when they reunite at the end of the day after school or work or whatever that looks like for your family. And then the end of the day, the last 3 minutes before they fall asleep. I developed my time well spent method before hearing about this study. And as I was doing more research on it and wondering if anyone else was doing something like this, I realized, oh my gosh, my 5 minutes 3 times a day is actually research-based by default, just because it was. But it was already how we were spending time with our kids and understanding like we have a deep bond, we have a strong relationship with our kids, and we want to share that with other people and help them build the same type of relationship. Is our relationship with our kids perfect? Absolutely not. Are we perfect parents? No. Are our kids always 100% well behaved? Yes. Just kidding. For those of you that know me personally and have seen my kids, you know that's not true. But these 5 minutes, 3 times a day, are a very repeatable, memorable, and predictable pattern to begin to develop with our kids so that they can start to know when we can show up fully and when we can bring those things to mom and dad, and what that looks like in a rhythm of relationship. Okay. Spent a lot of time with my kids, but that doesn't mean all of the time I'm spending is intentional. Maybe you don't spend a lot of time with your kids, and maybe this time you do spend isn't intentional. The goal of the time well spent method is to say, I'm going to take this amount of time and I'm going to invest it just in this kid. 5 minutes right now, this morning. I'm going to watch my child brush their teeth or pick out their cereal or whatever, to pick out their clothes for the day or whatever it is, interact with their sibling, and just spend 5 minutes observing them. That's what seeing is. It's just observing and understanding, like, why did they pick that? Or why are they playing with this toy? Or what are their interests? So it's one way that we can spend time getting to know our kids better, because seeing requires proximity. It requires getting down on their level and being close enough to them to observe them, okay? We're not using a microscope and watching their every move, but we're also not like standing way back and using a telescope to be like, oh, I don't want to intrude. Get on their level, observe them. Hearing requires prompting and posture. If you're going to spend time hearing your kids, you got to show up to those minutes, those ready to listen, like ready to not interject, ready to not teach and correct and tell them, oh, you're saying that wrong or you're doing this wrong, right? We're so susceptible as dads, so many of us, with correcting and nope, don't do it this way, do it this way. And when was the last time that you spent time with your kid and a thought came into your mind, a correction came into your mind, and you chose not to correct them? That was a big challenge for me the first time that I realized, oh my gosh, every time that I have something, a teachable moment, I'm saying it every time. And at some point, it just becomes white noise, right? So we have to choose those moments and understand, like, oh, I can put a filter on here and I can just listen. I can hear. The posture matters, how you show up for those minutes, and the prompts. What questions are you asking when you show up to those 5 minutes? Hey, what made you scared today? What did you eat for lunch today? What would you do if you could do anything this weekend? What would you do? Those are great questions, open-ended questions to allow your kids to begin to explore with you what's going on in their mind. Seeing and hearing informs the knowing, okay? So spending 5 minutes knowing them really means, like, what did I learn about them when I heard them today? What did I learn about them when I observed them today? And using those two pieces, how do we spend this 5 minutes knowing them? Some of the best time to know is evening. When they're ready to go to sleep, they're in bed, you just sit with them or by them for 5 minutes and just get to know them better. It is such a gift. Some of my clients do this on the regular, and they've said it's one of their favorite moments of the day. Their minds are starting to wind down, their questions are starting to pop up, and it's really, really beautiful to hear the stories that come from this. If you hit these 3 windows every day, you're just the hot shot. That's amazing. High achiever. Way to go. Most people probably like 80%. And you know what? That actually is good enough for now, because we're not looking to like go from 0 to 100. We're looking to go 1% better every day, right? What's one thing you can do today to better listen to your kids, better hear them, to better see them, and help them know that they are seen, they are heard, and they are known? It's a gift to them. What matters in all 3 of these areas is you being present. We talked about this a few episodes ago, that contentment is the pathway to presence. If you don't show up with contentment in these 5-minute windows, you are going to be writing things down on a to-do list. You're going to be wondering about all the other things you have to be going on. You're going to wonder, like, I got to do this, and I should be doing that, and I should be sending that email, and blah, blah, blah. Shut your brain up. Speak a sentence of gratitude and say, what I have right now is enough for this moment. And so I'm going to let everything else go, and I'm going to be with my kid, be present. Okay. And what sits underneath all of these is integrated neural pathways. There's this really good book. Good's a good word. I don't know how else to describe it. It's somewhat challenging. It's very approachable, but it helped unpack how our brains are wired, not just within our own brains, but for connection between the two. The book is called The Yes Brain. If you're interested, go listen to the audiobook or read it on your own time if you want. It's just very powerful to learn about when we show up with a yes brain in these interactions, it actually starts to wire our brains for connection. So maybe you're one of those guys that goes, I'd actually rather work like 60, 70, 80 hours a week and provide for my family financially because I don't know how to actually be in the room with them. I don't love being with them. When I'm at work, I'm respected. When I'm at work, people do what I say because I'm the boss. When I'm at work, my identity is secure and solid because I love my profession and I'm good at it. Fantastic. I hope that's true for you at your job. I hope that's true for you at your business. Okay? Would you not want that to be true for you at home? That you're respected, that people listen when you talk and do what you say, and you have a secure, strong identity because you are a confident dad who understands your role, understands your strengths and your weaknesses. Sounds pretty good to me. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen on accident. It happens with intentional time spent with your kids. So, time well spent method, great way to maximize the time you're already spending with your kids and doing it very intentionally in these 3 5-minute windows a day. Would love to hear from you if you start doing this. What does it look like for you when you engage in that? Your kids feel like it's weird. They feel like they're being watched. They feel like excited about it. Oh, dad wants to play with me, right? Some of the best 5-minute windows in these 3 times a day is playtime, okay? It's a big hack. Just play with them. One of our favorite card games to play is Mimic. You make a face. It's like Go Fish, but you have to make the face. Another one that's a little more educational is Sleeping Queens. That's a fun game to play with our kids and it's just spending time together, but not just sitting doing nothing, sitting and playing this game, observing, getting to know them. So as we finish today, I want to empower you with the reality. Just keep reminding you, like, owning your growth as a dad is your choice. If you are the guy that wants to work late and show up late because you can then put your feather in your hat, like I provided today, look at me, I provided, it's great. But your kids, they want more than money and stuff and presents. They want you. So show up for them. Show up well for them. You can. Even if you feel awkward, even if you feel like you don't know what you're doing, even if you feel like, man, I'd rather be at work where I'm respected instead of home where I'm getting whined at and yelled at and screamed at. Deep in your person, can you say, I'm grateful for this moment? Because you're going to show up way different, having intention and confidence and saying, I'm here. I've decided. I've offloaded all the things from work. And as I walk in this door today, I am going to show up well for my kids. So be empowered today to show up well and to be the dad your kids need. We'll see you in the next episode.